Hi, everybody. Welcome to Resolve to Live Forward. It's John Morrow. Today's date is, let me think for just a second. Nope, I think I'll look at my calendar. It is, wow, November 14th. Can you believe that? November the 14th. It's a Friday, of course. This past week, we celebrated, and I really mean that. We celebrated Veterans Day. I'm not going to talk about Veterans Day as part of my subject matter, but it's important to remember Veterans Day in the United States of America is a remembrance day with respect to an event that took place at the end of World War I, armistice. And in the United States, we moved away from just the armistice message into the fact that the purpose of Veterans Day, November the 11th, was to recognize and to pay homage to and respects not just to fallen warriors of the past who have served this country and have made the ultimate sacrifice, or they served this country and then lived out their lives and they have since passed and they are laid to rest in cemeteries all over the United States of America. And in the case of examples like the veterans that died during D-Day in World War II, there are many cemeteries in France that are there to remember those who paid the ultimate price. But we also remember the fact that there are people walking the streets right here in my own neighborhood who are veterans. And so we celebrated that day this week along with a lot of other things, but we also had a week where there were a myriad of struggles, and I'm not here to report the news. I also really, although I have in my own mind an opinion of these things, at the end of the day, and this is not just giving up, it's not caving. The circumstances of what goes on within our neighborhood, our community, our city, our county, our state, this nation, and even those things which either directly or indirectly affect us around the world. We really don't have a whole lot of control over that. We only have control to the degree as to what we personally do about those things. And I'm going to talk about those. But first, let me just tell you, you are listening to or watching by podcast Resolve to Live Forward. Resolve to Live Forward is a podcast. I've been doing it now, I think, for pretty much almost a year, if not more than a year. I've stopped counting the episodes, but I do know that I try to, and generally speaking, I've been able to come to you every week on Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. And in doing this, I am talking about the power of the word resolve as it's related to the resolve that is defined as one having a definite, firm plan of action. A person with a definite, firm plan of action. And we've spent a lot of time talking about the behaviors that come with a resolve mindset, the behaviors of resilience, engagement, engaging every opportunity that comes, including those that you plan for as well as those that are unexpected. It's opportunistic thinking, serving selflessly with a stewardship mindset, the idea of a well-organized plan of action, that letter O for organization, the letter L for the life-giving and in many, many cases life-saving power of learning. Learning isn't just something where you experience, but you apply. You apply that towards having a more effective and successful daily life. You need to be able to see and to visualize through the power of vision, that's the letter V in resolve, what it is that you want to accomplish. And then the last E is the will to be enthusiastic, to determine, to be resolute in being enthusiastic about each and every single day. Because some days just do not lend themselves to wanting to be enthusiastic. So we've talked considerably about that. I want to thank Buzzsprout for being the hosting platform, and this podcast is published across multiple podcast platforms, and those podcast platforms include Spotify and the iTunes Store. I've been doing some note taking, and I've been doing some writing in preparation for a TED Talk that I'm going to be doing. And as I'm preparing to do this TED Talk, I wanted to share with you today some of the salient questions that have come across in my life that help me to understand why it is that there is still meaningful purpose in my life. Those of you that have connected with me and are following me and are familiar with me and know me as a podcast host, know me as a speaker, know me as a mindset coach, know me through my personal life, and know me right here as part of my community of friends and people, especially among those who are part of my blood family, my Toastmasters family, and my family of faith. These are questions which I wanted to address in the talk that I'm going to be doing in 2026 on a TEDx stage. And at the very, very top is an interesting question. So I decided to pull out my notes. I've got them right here. And I wanted to read them to you in framing. What if life pulls the rug out from underneath you? Can you find a way to move forward? Can you find a way to not move past it? Can you find a way to move forward even though it will always be with you? I think we all probably wish there were things that we could unremember. I think we all agree that there are events, some that we want to remember because of the joy they bring to us, but there are also incredibly painful moments that we wish we didn't have to remember, and we work so hard to try to shut them out. And it is the stuff of an entire field of medical care that is working diligently and constantly to help people find a way to reach that maximum emotional improvement in their lives that allows them to be functionally capable and productive. But there are events that put us flat on our back or leave us lying face down in a pile of carnage. Something we didn't ask for, something we don't deserve, but it happened. That was the statement that crossed my mind as I go back to 2019 and the event that would change my life for the remainder of my life. The event that still continues to change my life and drive my life. When devastation comes, you have no clear path forward. A question arises. Now what? What am I going to do? We open ourselves up to a lot of crazy thinking unless we seek help. It would be very, very easy when you have lost something that is the most important something in your life to want to just simply go into seclusion. I sometimes have described it as curling up into literally a fetal position, and in a sense, waiting for and even hoping for the time that you can just simply die and it all go away. But is that really the right mindset? And again, I'm only talking from the perspective of how I've been impacted. And as very, very traumatic as my situation was, I will never for a second say to any of you, well, I understand what you're going through. Here's an interesting thing. We have a sense of what others are going through who have had this similar situation. But there are situations that I ask myself the question, how would I be able to deal with something like that? And the truth is, I don't know. I only know that I've been tasked and that I'm still alive. I still have breath in my lungs and a mind that seems to be working. And I'm surrounded also by a host of incredible people. And I know in my heart of hearts that there is still meaningful purpose in my life. And there's an important word, having purpose. You see, I talk about resolve as an acronym that represents 7 behaviors. I talk about the word resolve as a type of mindset that says, no, I'm not quitting. I'm going to be resolute and push my way forward. But I'm not going to push forward recklessly. I'm going to have a system. Quoting from John Maxwell, a specific word in his 21 laws, his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, I'm going to have a process. That process is the resolve mindset and the acronym of resolve and those 7 behaviors I've talked about. And it was because those were already present in my life that when I was confronted with how do I go forward from this point, that point in my life where what mattered more to me than anything else was taken from me. Now, had I gone through tragedy before? Yes, absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I say that when it comes to grieving, grieving isn't just about specific physical death. And of course, for us, I know for me personally, the death of my wife is the greatest and most powerfully devastating moment in my entire life. It truly was the place where I found myself asking, is there really any meaningful reason why I even want to be around here anymore? Now, that's a terrible thing to say, but you see, at that moment in time, she was 46 years all to me. An all-encompassing, all-pervasive, all-powerful. She was fully bought into me and I bought into her, and it represented 2/3 of my life at that time. 2/3 lived under the influence of her incredible, amazing personality, as well as her ability to be strong and firm and a role model to me. And I was made a better human being because of it. And might I remind you too, as I've said in these episodes, as we've talked, it was her influence that helped this power word come into being. And I did not know that it would have, pardon the expression, a prophetic effect upon me, that it would actually see out into the future as being something that would be there for me to take hold of and to start applying. See, the power word isn't just something that's mentally there. It becomes hardwired into your behavioral mechanisms, so that the things that you do with your 5 senses, see, hear, smell, taste, touch, all are directly a result of having a resolved mindset. They are a direct result of practicing resilience, engagement, service, organization, learning, vision, and enthusiasm, all tied together in a not so neat but extremely powerful package, and being so much intentional in their behavioral impact in my life that as I power forward with my power word resolve in a resolute manner, these behaviors are choices made intentionally because every day brings its own set of new problems. When we are in struggle, we ask this question: since this has been taken from me, now what do I do? How do I start going forward? It's a question for the ages, and it happens to people who have gone through a divorce. It happens to people who have lost a precious pet. My wife and I were cat lovers, but we have had to lay to rest many cats. They were a part of our family, and they were devoted to us, and we cared for them, and they loved them, and they were hardwired into our family. We have lost jobs that we loved for no reason other than the fact that the circumstances brought the job to a sudden end, and that basically the job that we were performing and performing well ceased to exist. And that's a self-repeating story for so many, many people. I think there's a measure of grief out there for much younger individuals who have had in their mind that they want to accomplish something in a particular field and specialty. They go to college, they invest so much in that, and they walk out of there with a debt, not just on themselves. In the case of my son, as he went to college, I also helped with his college tuition, and I had a debt that I carried that I had to pay off eventually in order for me not to have that over my head. But the key thing here is that they put all this effort and hard work into the higher education process, only to find out that the field wasn't as ripe as they hoped it would be, and that they found themselves skilled but with no skill jobs to find. That's a terrible situation. That's a heartbreaking situation. That's a situation that destroys the confidence of individuals. There are circumstances where you have an event take place in your life, a car accident. That car accident may have any one of a number of consequences associated with it, but it leaves you emotionally damaged. And that emotional damage, by the way, to a great degree is permanent. And when I talk about maximum emotional improvement, I think of it the same way I do when you're healing from an injury. You're seeking maximum medical improvement, but if truth be known, when something is damaged, it never returns to 100% of the condition that it was in prior to the event. There's this phrase that I remember from the days when I worked in automobile insurance as an injury adjuster: indemnification. And I was reminded that people have injuries that may seem to you or to me minor, but they're not minor in the sense that everything goes back to normal once the treatment process is over. If there is treatment, they're going to wind up with a deficit, what's called a percentage of loss. They're going to be 90, 93, 95, 97, even 98% of what they were before the accident, but they are damaged. Now, those events they carry in your life as you go forward. And it isn't so much that you move past them, although you try. It's that you have to accept the fact that you have to move forward in spite of them and with them. They're not going to go away. They're always going to be in the background. And over time, as we age, they're going to have effects upon us that are going to linger. I had a house fire in 1990. That was a trauma. That was a grieving moment. So much was lost. Thankfully, the house was not lost in itself. The frame of the house, the bones of the house, the body of the house was very, very stout, and the fire was caught and brought under control. But so much of what was in the house was totally lost. And that total loss isn't just the damage to the house and the need for a complete reclamation process, but there were the memories that were there. I mean, we lost our wedding book, our yearbooks, lots of photo albums of the earlier years together and of family and friends, as well as clothing and articles and keepsakes. Yes, we had insurance, and insurance helped, but insurance doesn't replace in the sense of that can be brought back. That was not the case at all. They were gone. And there are still days to this day where I miss those things. And it leaves a little bit of a sting, even though I have come so far from that moment in 1990. The principal thing I'm trying to say here is that devastation and the subsequent grief that comes with it brings you to a grinding halt. When you reach that moment where you are stuck, and the question that comes out of your mouth is, what now? Or, where do I go from here? How do I find a way forward? We're going to talk about that. We're going to dig deeper into that. We're going to use the tools of the power word resolve and the 7 behaviors associated with the 7 letters. We will also talk about the situations that occur in life that we share in common and those that we don't share in common, except for the fact that in all cases, we suffered incredible grief, great devastation, heartbreak, and sorrow. And it's not to be a Debbie Downer time. It's to say, if you have a framework, if you have a process, if you have a pattern that you can work through and a set of behaviors that you can put to work, you can, with intentionality, find a way to move forward with meaningful purpose. This is what I believe. This is what I share and postulate in my speaking. And this is what I hope I'm doing for anyone who is in the same position as I am and understands and gets me and I get you. So we will talk more about that as we step into this next phase of what happens when we reach that point where the only question we can ask is, now what? Now what? Where do I go from here, or is there any way to continue from here? I assure you there is, but it takes doing the work. Thank you for joining me today on this beautiful Friday in the month of November. I look forward to joining you again at this time next week. You are listening to or watching Resolve to Live Forward, the podcast. My name is John Morrow. We are on multiple podcast platforms, including Spotify and the iTunes Store. And I hope that if you're listening for the first time, that you will come back and join me. And if you do wish to communicate with me, I would certainly welcome it if you would send me an email, johnmorrowcoaching johnmorrowcoaching@gmail.com. johnmorrowcoaching@gmail.com. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your comments. I want to find those people out there that not only find this helpful, but will help me as well, because we all have something to give to each other, and in sharing it together, we grow as community. It's been a pleasure serving you. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I am just thankful for the opportunity to be here today and to be a part of this podcast to you, a community of people out there that I'm thankful for. So as we wrap it up, I'm John Morrow saying, like I always say at the end of every podcast, whatever is happening in your life, no matter what you do, keep living forward. I say it again, keep living forward. Bye-bye. So long for now. I'll see you next week.